As you're probably aware, my name's Jeff Bullard. I'm the newest Love Systems instructor. I'm 48 years old, okay, and I do date, women. Oh, I prefer to date women younger than me. When you're 48, actually, there's not too many that are actually older than you that are attractive, but that's one of the main reasons why. Some of the girls I date at the moment are 22, 23. But my preferred age bracket to date is actually between about 25 to 35. Okay, they usually got something going on in their life. I'd like to start by first saying that there's only one person in this world that can make you happy, all right, and that's you. Right? Having a smoking hot young girlfriend is not necessarily going to make you happy. However, when you've got game, and you've learned how to apply game to pick up younger women, it certainly brings a lot of happiness in your life to have the power to do that. Okay? Now, having good game is about 80% of good game is actually getting rid of bad habits. It's actually not, it's 20% actually introducing techniques and new stuff into your life. 80% of good game is getting rid of bad habits, like poor posture, neediness, poor voice projection, all right? All that other stuff that probably the other instructors have already gone through with you. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just focusing on the 20%, okay, what I can show you. The other 80%, that's always addressed at boot camps. That's the reason why doing a boot camp is fundamentally important, where instructors can deal directly with the students' bad habits that they've accumulated over the years. Okay. So, before I go into that though, the term game I like a lot. Even though it's a politically correct term to use, I think it's very good because when we start putting emotional attachment to outcomes, it brings about it takes us away from our path, takes us away from our best performance. It should be viewed when you're having interaction with a woman as, in fact, game, okay? It is like a video game. It is a process. Fall in love with the process. Don't fall in love with the outcomes, okay? That's when your game will improve. Now, it's also important to remember two things when it comes to women, right? One is that when they're in a relationship and they with a loving man, they will look to that man for direction in their life. The second thing to remember is that the way a woman's mind works is through they have the power to accept, the power to reject. That's pretty much when you're in an interaction or communication with a woman, her mind is going accept or reject, okay? There's two buttons going on. What we want to do, particularly when we're gaming younger women, is we want to hit the accept button, particularly early in the interaction, to gain traction in the interaction. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Now, I don't know, there's actually a girl last night that looked like this girl, this Patty Stranger from that Millionaire Matchmaker program on TV. And she actually said on her program, a girl will sleep with a guy for two reasons. One, she's drunk, and two, she wants to get something from that guy, okay? We want to be the guy that she wants to get something from. Now that could be like a humorous guy, or it could be an interesting, intriguing guy, right? The interesting, intriguing guy, or the humorous guy, it can be the older guy. You've got to cultivate that side of your game, okay, when gaming younger girls. So that's the reason why it's important to embed, DHV spikes and humour in your opening banter. You really want to get her mind going, accept. Now, you've got to bear in mind that you have a 10-year window when you're dealing with a girl, all right? If a girl is 10 years less than your perceived age, all right, it's okay to go direct. Hey, you're smoking hot, had to come and meet you, and you've already learned a whole bunch of direct openers, I would imagine, by now. All right? Once we get past that 10-year, that window, all right, the 15, 20 years you're junior, when you go up to a girl in a nightclub and say, hey, you're smoking, you know, you're 20 years older than, you say you're smoking hot, had to come and meet you, all right? What are we doing there? We're hitting she's got to accept or reject. We're hitting the reject button immediately. We haven't had time to build attraction. She doesn't know who we are. She doesn't know we're an interesting guy, and immediately she's ejecting out of it. So you don't really want to do that once we pass that 10-year age bracket. We want to become the interesting guy first, okay, before we show any sexual intent, right? So bear in mind that 10-year time frame. And as I said, that's of your perceived age. Some guys are older than they look, and some guys are younger than they look. I'm fairly lucky I'm a bit younger than I look, all right? So how do you find your perceived age? Well, it's not what you think you are, it's the feedback you get. So whenever you're talking to girls in clubs, bars, or whatever, invariably it always sort of comes up in conversation. They'll ask you the question, you know, how old are you? All right? And my reply is always the same. Have a guess. How old do you think I am? All right? Whatever the consistent number that you get back, that's your perceived age. All right? If they consistently come back and say, oh, I think you're about 40, you're about 35, whatever, that's fine. That's my perceived age. My perceived age is, let's say it's 40, all right? That means, okay, I can go direct to girls from 30 to 40 through that age bracket. Anything outside that gets a bit weird for them initially if I'm showing too much sexual intent initially, and I don't want to do that, all right? Okay, now, all right, now being older, you're actually going to, we got one positive thing on your side, you're naturally going to appear more masculine, all right? So you want to cultivate that. You want to enhance your strengths, right? Always. You also need to calibrate your game. Right? When you're younger, you can, the HV spike, your game can be all over the show, but as long as you're building attraction, it's fine. Calibration is much more important when you're older. You've really got to have it stepped out, all right, to do it properly. Now, you've got to write down your own emotional progression model, okay? This is what I do. You've got a ton of information at this seminar, and I would imagine you probably have had a ton of information in before you got here. Now, same as me, when I was learning all this, I was just getting like a barrage of information. It was all swirling around, but it was never in a frame that I could fully conceptualize, that I could go, right, okay, until I just used the drop-down menu theory, all right? So basically we just categorize everything that we learn, everything that you've learned here, you just categorize it, okay? In the emotional progression model, we've got, okay, opening, transition, attraction, etc. So we just have, okay, openers. These are my direct openers, boom, that I've picked up that I think I can use, that I like, boom. These are my indirect openers, boom, we write them down. Situational openers, maybe there's a few there, all right? So we write that, and I print all these things out. Every time I hear a good opener, I'll add it. This will become my master emotional progression model. This is my summary of information that I like. Transition material, all right? I write out all the transition stuff I like. Might be role plays, might be cold reads. You know, I hear some good stuff, I write it all out, boom, on the computer, right? Attraction material, and I do that. So I just collect this information over time, and it becomes a big document, all right? That's okay, all right? It can become bigger. What happens is that you can start to summarize it, start using things out of it, and you say, well, this works, this doesn't work for me. That's the thing about game. Some lines will work for some guys, will be congruent with their personality, whereas other lines won't be congruent with other guys' personalities, all right? So you want to use that, and okay, this will be your basic, your master blueprint that you work off. And then you'll make summaries of it, all right? You'll just do smaller ones. You'll keep that main one. You'll make a summary emotional progression model next time you go out. So I'm going to try this attraction material, this opener, okay? Try this in seduction, all right? And And that's how you start to get really good at game. And also you paid a lot of money to be here, and you're getting full value. You've got a permanent record of what you're using. Now, this is my apartment when I was staying in Montreal. This is my motion progression model. First, on the door, I ran out of wall space there, but the first 2 pages there, they're just openers, all right? And I've summarised them actually down. I got rid of a lot. The second page is just transition, all right? And then attraction material, there's quite a bit of it, okay? Qualification, disqualification, as we've gone through. Comfort and seduction material in those columns. So what happens is you put it on the wall, and that way you can see it, and it actually, you internalise the information much easier. It's like, okay, these are the openers, I'm looking at it each day, boom, 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 before I go out. And that way, approach a girl, it's like, boom, in your mind, hit the drop-down menu, openers, boom. And I see like a menu like in the back of my head. All right, I'll use this one. In this particular scenario, I think it'll work well. All right. Transition, yep, cold read, boom. I know the cold reads, I can visualise, I can see it on the door right now. Attraction material, boom, yeah, I'll use this. All right. This is how you'll remember this stuff a lot better. You'll also got a proper way of recording all the information, right? Because you're getting it at all angles here, okay? You can start to file it.
You take that down before you bring girls back to the house?
Yes, I do. Or I close the door and I sort of look this way. I have forgotten to do that a couple of times, take it down. I was like, oh, what's that? I said, oh, it's just a film script we're working on, don't we? Okay. Yeah, so when you're gaming like younger girls, let's say girls 20 years younger than you, particularly safe opener that I use is I'll say, hey, you know, you look, I think you're from, you know, you look like you're from Australia. You look familiar, is what I'll say. What am I doing there? I'm becoming the interesting guy immediately. This is obviously in the United States to do this. It's like, oh, he thinks I'm from Australia. Oh, he's Australian. All right. So immediately, and there's no sexual intent there. So immediately I'm going off the interesting guy tangent. All right. They'll come back and they'll say, no, they're not from Australia, or in some particular cases, they are from Australia. And either way, it doesn't matter. Oh, hi, where are you from? Oh, you're from Australia. Whereabouts are you from Australia? Oh, no, you're from the United States. Where are you from? Boom. And off we go, okay, on an interesting tangent. Right? So you can use that particular opener, I use it in day or night game. All right? It's a safe, low investment opener, no sexual intent. Another generic one you can use is, I've spoken to a few guys here, that approaching women at there's a vast age difference. It's just, hey, you look cool. Had to come and say hi. You know, if you come over and say, hey, you're sexy, you think you're smoking hot, it's 28 age bracket, it's just too much in the beginning. We need to build their interest in us first. We need to become the intriguing guy, and then we can just calibrate how that's going. Okay, they're getting more sort of into us. Then we can introduce sexual intent. Now, one of the guys in the audience here, I spoke to him about this the other day. He was telling me that he was trying direct openers, hey, you're smoking hot, and he was getting blown out a lot, and for that particular reason. This particular gentleman sold a computer software company 2 years ago. All right? There's a DHV spike there, so we've got him to introduce that into the opener. It's like, hey, I thought you looked pretty cool. Had to come and say hi. Isn't Vegas fantastic? You know, I sold my company 2 years ago. Now I've got the freedom to travel and sort of do stuff, and I'm really, enjoying places like Vegas. All right? Bingo. That's like boom. Right? You say that to like a young girl, and you'll become an interesting guy immediately. There's no sexual intent. Now, if this girl's looking for a guy that's successful, immediately he goes to the top of the list. Also, you're not competing directly with 20-year-olds. Okay, 20-year-olds can't say things like that. They just haven't sold a computer software company. They haven't done this, that, and the other. So you don't want to be competing directly with 20-year-old at their own game, right? You can do this stuff and create more status immediately, but at the same time, you don't want to be bragging, you don't look too try hard, right? If you notice I said there, we didn't say, look, I just sold my computer software company. It'll be, I sold my company 2 years ago, and now I have the freedom to travel, which is what all women want to do. All women love fashion, cooking, and the freedom to travel anywhere they want, right? You're really hitting big attraction switches in them when you say things like this. We're holding back on sexual intent. Yeah, like I said, that's what we have to do. Once we get past that 10-year perceived age, all right, we hold back on sexual intent. Within that 10 years, okay, women will accept, within a 10-year time frame, who they ought to get sexually interested in. Now, we've also got to understand there's a fundamental difference between girls under 25 and over 25. Girls under 25, it's more state-based attraction in your, will keep their attention in you, okay? They're a little bit ADD, under 25. They like, to be picked up and spun around. Like, things that get their little heart sort of racing, okay? Only problem with that, with state-based attraction when they're like this, you got to continually keep their little minds sort of reeling, is that you walk away to the bar or have to go to the toilet, you come back, some other guys come in, and he picks up where you left off. It's transferable. That state is transferable to somebody else. All right? When we get over 20, girls get over 25, they naturally become more interested. There's in less state-based attraction. Still need a little bit of that, of course, not to bore them, but they're more interested in the intriguing, interesting guy. All right? That's one of the reasons why I like between 25 and 35 is my preferred age group with women. So that goes over very well, okay? The guy with status, the guy that's successful, the guy that's had life experience, and has these stories, these conversation gambits pre-written, and he's remembered them, and you've distilled what works for you and what doesn't work for you. All right? That's what you have to do over time. Obviously you've got to write your own stories. I can't write them for you. Your emotional range. What happens when guys get older, particularly over 40, they start losing their emotional range. They become more serious as they get older, right? With women, they like to see, emotional range, that you're a fun guy, not overly serious, Obviously you can be serious in business, but when you're out, you can be fun. You've got you can open up, you've got a wide range of emotion. You're not just this little, becoming a serious sort of old man, or on your way to becoming a serious old man, right? That's what you need to work on, to get a little bit more emotional range. You don't want to be, obviously, the entertainer guy sort of dancing around being an idiot, but also you don't want to become the sensitive new age guy, that's just, who's too emotional. But you can have a little bit of a fair degree of emotional range there. Particularly guys who've been in a long-term relationship. What happens a lot in long-term relationships is that often their freedom of self-expression gets stifled. I've a few friends like this, which happened firsthand. I was married for 7 years. Actually, I was with the same woman for 12. All right, and I know how it works. What happens to guys is that they tend to avoid going in deep rapport with a woman. And this is what happens in a long-term relationship, is you come home from work, walk in the door, hi honey, how are you? Yeah, how was your day? Blah, blah, blah. I've had a hell of a day. I just I just want to chill out. She's like, yeah, fine, okay. Starts talking, have a little bit of a conversation. As we go deeper in rapport, she'll say, think about where we're going to go for vacation this year. I say, well, I'd like to get down to Cabo San Lucas, just lay on the beach and sort of just chill out for, say, 10 days. And then she'll say, well, let's say I want to visit my mother in New York City, right? Say, oh, look, I don't really want to do that. I prefer to sort of go to Cabo. And then all of a sudden, the mood changes. It's like, well, you never really liked my mother, have you? And it's like, well, no, I just feel like going to Cabo saying, look, it says, no, honestly, you know, you've never done anything for my mother, blah, blah, and on it goes. Like, look, I don't really need this right now, you know, but I told you I've had a hell of a day. And that's what happens, is that when guys in a long-term relationship go into deep rapport, it gets hijacked, and then boom, off it goes, off on a tangent, and an argument starts, all right? So that's the reason why you see guys, quite a few of them, don't go in a deep rapport. They've been in a long-term relationship. It's all like on the surface, you know. It's like a minefield. Oh, fuck, I'm not going. I know there's an ambush waiting for me there, all right? So they tend to avoid it. Unfortunately, that becomes a habit. So when that relationship's over, they come out of it, and they find it's become an ingrained habit, and they find it hard to sort of go back into deep rapport and get that emotional range back, which you need when you're gaming girls, and particularly young girls. You need to have a bit of emotional range, you know, show a bit of fun, able to talk deeply and passionately about things that you like, okay? So we need to get that emotional range back. Also, another thing to remember too is that your career path can also interfere with your emotional range. You see, what makes up a persona of a person is basically two parts. One is personality, one is their true essence. Now, personality is something we learn over time. It's basically an act, right? It's how we act on the outside. We learn, okay, if I act this way, people like me, I get stuff, you know, I get things, all right? The true essence is your true qualities that you were born with, all right? You see photographs of yourself as a child, all right? You can see in photographs a person's true essence, or maybe old videos of a child, you know, you're born with it. What happens is over time is that often personality starts to overtake the true essence, particularly people who work in direct sales, all right? That's a real essence killer. You know, if you're working car sales or real estate sales, all right, their personality just crushes their essence. So they just become this two-dimensional sort of person. Hi, how are you? Have a nice day, you know. So we need to be able to, good game is actually about using our true essence and from the core, and that is be able to express yourself from the core and pepper it with game, with a little bit of game, all right? And that touches a woman's heart when you communicate with them. But if you become more of a three-dimensional guy by doing that, right? If you don't do that and you just become sort of too game, it's like, hi, you're smoking hot, hey, you look like a nurse or a stripper, I can't work it out. And it's all sort of two-dimensional. They can't, it'll hold their interest for a bit, but they'll think, you know, you're sort of a bit of a gaming guy. When you start introducing start speaking from the core, bringing out your true essence, peppering that with game, all right, really powerful stuff. That just hooks them right in, okay, as far as attraction goes. Now, what I do is, and that's one of the things I'm working on at the moment actually, is expressing from the core, peppering with game. And I like to go speed dating, okay, to test how things are going with that. Like I said, I lived in Montreal for a while. I was just in Australia for the last 5 weeks. And it seems to be working well. I went speed dating in Montreal. I pretty much had, in Australia and in Montreal, I had pretty much about an 80% success rate. All the hot girls I liked, out of 10 of them, they picked me, I picked them. All right. Out of that, I didn't have enough time, obviously to sort of date them all, so I just sort of picked the top 3 in Montreal and the top 3 in Australia when I was there. And, closed the top 3 in Montreal. And these are all girls in like their 20s, and the 25 to 35 age bracket. Same as Australia, there was closed 2 out of the 3 there, and the third one was pretty much on her way there. We're sort of making out and so forth, but I had to leave the country, and that was like on the second date. And these girls would actually, in Australia, actually live on a farm, and it's an hour and 15 minutes drive from the major city where they hold speed dating. So these girls would actually, and they still live with their parents. So they would have to drive an hour and 15 minutes to come and have the second date with me, right? So that's how powerful sort of game is when you start using game and expressing from the core, okay? Once again, as you get older, because as we said, serious, so you need to be more playful, but not silly playful. Role plays, teasing, okay? They can see that you're a guy who's young at heart, right? That really builds attraction. The marriage role plays, which I think you've probably been through exhaustively, very powerful stuff. You know, let's get married, let's get divorced. You would think that, you know, it just sounds like a silly bit of a game, but God, it really works. It's like nuclear weapons out there in game. It starts to build the love bubble, right? What happens with most guys is when they, you know, just talk to a girl in a club or a plane or wherever, it's just a conversation, all right? Well, even though you might be interested in it, or the guy might be interested in it, thinks she's smoking hot like most guys, but she doesn't see it. It's like, oh, yeah, he's just talking about the weather, where you're from, blah, blah. She thinks you're having a conversation. But when you start bringing the love bubble in, bang, right, you start doing the role plays, or the marriage role plays, it just creates this bubble, okay? They get swept up in it, and it changes the whole energy, the dynamic, okay? So they understand, you know, this is, that you're building attraction. Now, I use it a lot. The thing is, the marriage role plays, is so powerful that and you see this with a lot of instructors, they go into it quickly, you know, like within about the first 30 seconds of like opening a girl, because they know this stuff is just dynamite, right? So, yeah, it's so powerful that there's this temptation to try and, you know, throw it in there straight away. You know, we're fueling the fire immediately. Now, you don't want to come across like a dad, of course. When you're dealing with young girls, you don't want to be saying, "Oh, look," you know, bringing attention, you know, to the age difference. It's like, you know, they'll come up with some, you know, naive ideas. You know, I was dating one girl, and she's like 22, and she's like, you know, yeah, you know, I'd really like to have some land somewhere. You know, I can look after, you know, people who don't, you know, who dump their animals, you know, horses and dogs and cats and all this kind of thing. And you don't want to turn around and say, well, you know, how are you going to fund this thing? You know, where's the money going to come from? You know, be real. You know, so you just want to go along with it. It's like, yeah, like, that's great, that's fantastic. Oh, you're such, you know, that's such a noble cause, right? That's really where you're going to come from. So you don't want to be like the father. And the same thing too. You don't want to draw attention to, oh yeah, remember when I was backpacking in Europe, when I first went to Europe backpacking, what was that, 1985? All right. Okay, you don't want to be like drawing attention, things like that. And that's a true story. That's the first time I went backpacking in Europe. Now, and also you don't want to be the sugar daddy, all right, sort of buying her attention. All right, that's a bad hole to fall into. All right. Now also, when you create this love bubble, you know, you're doing the marriage role plays, you know, divorce, whatever. And obviously this is after you've built attraction, after you become an interesting guy, right? You can pepper in, and you obviously pepper in a little, you know, teasing, but you want to say things like this. You know, a lot of guys sort of run out of things to say, and this will give you a good guide as to where to go with it to pepper in through your conversation. You know what I've been thinking about a lot lately? You know, this is powerful stuff. This just builds, reinforces this love bubble. You know what I've been thinking about a lot lately? Something like, you know, going back to Bali, you know, going surfing there on the outer islands. I mean, it's palm trees, white sand, you know, tropical water, $10 massages after surfing, and, you know, having cheap drinks on the sandy beach at sunset. What are we doing there? We're talking in the language of females, which is emotions and feelings. You know what I love? You'll have a story about that. You know what I hate? You'll have something there. You know what I miss? You know? So build, you fill in those blanks with that. Okay, with the language of feelings and emotions. There's something that she can relate to, right? You want to say, oh, you know what I miss? I miss sort of drag racing, something like that. So you want to talk about travel, probably places, things like this, things that you can relate to. Travel, cooking, fashion. Now to make, but you don't want to be the serious guy. Like I said, you can throw that in there, but you want to shake it up a bit by spiking the conversations with interesting qualifying questions. This is how we can get humour and qualifying at the same time, You can ask questions like, have you ever been fired from a job or had someone fired from a job? Always gets a good reaction. What place would you love to travel? That's a bit of a softer one. Have you ever been in a girl fight? Have you ever smoked pot? Have you ever kissed a girl? Even though there might be no to all of that, their eyes light up when you say that. It's like spike, spike, spike. Okay. Now with older guys, look, you want to dress and have style that's around your perceived age, or what you can get away with, right? Particularly with older guys, I mean, a good way to dress is to look like an entrepreneur with an edge. Okay, so that could be like a sharp suit, but with an edgy type of shirt underneath, not just a plain white one or just a plain colour, maybe something else. Right? That comes across sharp, particularly in a club. Right? You'll stand out. This guy's got status. All right, immediately. Yeah, you don't want to be doing t-shirts. You don't want to be trying to dress like 20-year-olds in the club. I know there's a temptation to do that. But no, you want to stay away from t-shirts. If you're day gaming, don't want to be wearing shorts, sandals, flip-flops. Also, a girl will judge you or judge your sense of style, often obviously by the clothes you wear. But the two most important things that a guy has is their watch and their shoes. This is what a woman will look at the most. Particularly the watch. I was dating a flight attendant, a Swedish flight attendant with Emirates when I was living in Sweden about a year and a half ago. And she let it slip, actually, because, I went through the post-mortem, we first started dating and closed, and I said, what was it that you sort of noticed about me? And she said, oh, well, first thing I noticed was your watch. I had a Rolex at the time. I said, oh. And she sort of let it slip, and she went, oh, but that was all, I know, okay, fine. So, yeah, so you need to have, well, if you can't afford a Rolex, you can buy fake ones, all right, that no one can tell the difference at the end of the day, or something similar, all right, because women do notice these things, right? You don't have the gas station watch on, particularly if you're trying to show that you've got status and style, which you need to do, right, being an older guy. Yeah, you want to have the aura of wealth and success. All right, personal grooming, all right. Well, it's a sad fact is with a lot of guys is that as they get older, the hair seems to sort of thin out at the top, but it all sprouts out of the nose and the ears, all right. So you want to make sure there's no ear hair, nose hair, all right, take care of that. Yellow teeth, all right, get them whitened, all right. Ask family and friends, Some guys aren't even aware their teeth are white. I mean, we had last year's Rockstar program, which I was a part of, or in 2009. We had a dentist there that was offering to do the Rockstars for free. And one of the guys says, I don't need it. And his teeth were shocking, like a homeless person's. So you probably need to ask someone who's close to you, do my teeth really need whitening, to get an unbiased opinion. Also, grey chest hair. Not a good look, sort of tufts sort of at the top of the shirt. You just want to sort of wax that part of it, and you don't need to get the whole lot done. But at the same token, you don't have to, everyone has different perceptions about things. If we all had the same perception, we'll be driving the same model car and we'll be living in the same type of house. So you got to understand that women do have different preferences. This became apparent to me when I was dating a girl in Dublin, Ireland, and her friend Tatiana, a Russian girl, very hot, in her 20s, slim, attractive, and he was just turned on by guys with grey hair. Yeah, I've never seen that before. We go to a bar and, that guy's hot. And this grey hair guy was completely oblivious that all he had to do was open her and it was on. Okay, so understand that everyone has different perceptions. Okay, just because she's younger than you doesn't mean she may not be into older guys. I mean, that's an exception rather than the rule, but anything's possible. Okay. Alrighty. Now, as I said, you've got to start writing your own scripts with DHV stories in them. You want to be the interesting guy that's got status. Now, for me, I've got 3 stories at random, ready to go. If we start talking about fashion, travel, or my job. So let's say travel sort of comes up. And these are all true stories. And I'll say, let's say she talks about travel, and I'll say, listen, I was in Japan last year, I was in Osaka, and I saw this most interesting thing. I was walking past this coffee shop that was like Starbucks, but it wasn't Starbucks. You walked in there and they had a menu, coffee's on this menu, and on this menu there were like pictures of dogs, all right? Dog number 1 was like a poodle, dog number 2 was like a Labrador. I mean, they weren't eating the dogs, they just sat on the menu. And you'd get your coffee and you pick, so let's say dog number 1, and you pick 20 minutes with dog number 1, let's say it's the poodle, and then they had a room with all these sofas and all the dogs were in this room, and you went spend 20 minutes and sat down next to your dog, let's say it's the poodle, and you just patted the thing for 20 minutes. And and then and that's because in Japan, all the apartments are very small there, and most people can't afford a big apartment and have a pet. And I thought it's a fantastic idea that they've come up with there. So what does that story, I mean, it's a nice story, girls like it, it's got the animal stuff in it, all right, but I've got a status, DHV spike in there, okay, travel, I go to Japan, all right. Also, there's a mild bit of humour in there as well, okay. We're starting to hit the 8 attraction switches. It's important that you memorise what the 8 attraction switches are. They're in magic bullets, all right. It's confident, status. You're writing them down, okay. I'll put them for you. Confident, status, challenging, you've got social intuition, healthy, humorous, as I said, you're pre-selected by other women, and also the aura of wealth, okay? When we say the aura of wealth, basically what they're looking for is a guy who's just not going to sit on the couch and she's got to go out to work. You don't have to be Donald Trump. Right? Now, the other story I use is my job. I used to work in the investment industry. And I got a call one day. I had my own financial planning practice. Got a call one day. We had a group of investors in a country town called Rockhampton in Australia. Wanted me to go up and do a presentation on some investment products we had. I flew up there. This woman had this massive house. She invited 15 people around. It was like this investor group. I went in there and did a PowerPoint presentation for them. They were all there. I set up my data projector, my laptop, but he was like this paisley wallpaper, and And I said, oh, look, I'm going to have to put, like, you haven't got a screen, let's put a sheet up here, okay, so I can throw up our projection on the wall. And they put the sheet up, I turned on the data projector, turned on the laptop. Now, our company logo as Atlas Investment Management was like a blue logo, went up on the sheet, and you could see cum stains on the sheets, okay? I could see it, everyone in the room could see it, and we just pretended that it wasn't there. And it was the fastest PowerPoint presentation I've ever done in my life, so uncomfortable, okay? But what does that story say? There's a lot of DHV spikes in that story, okay? Now what I'm doing there is, okay, I've got status, all right? I used to be I have my own financial planning practice, you know? And there's also the humour aspect of it, right? So there's quite a number of DHV spikes in there, and I've written them down. Social intuition is in there as well. You know, I picked up on it. It was an awkward situation, but you know, we got through it without it sort of getting out of control. The wealth aspect in it, okay, he's wealthy. Well, he must be wealthy at his own financial planning practice. So what I've hit is 5 of the 8 attraction switches with that story. All right. Also, what I'm doing there is something a little bit sneaky. I'm starting to turn things sexual in an indirect way. I'm actually gauging her response to that punchline. There's cum stains on the sheets. All right. Is she like shock and horror, like, oh God? Or does she laugh out loud? Okay, she's really into this. I can actually take the sexual frame a lot further. All right, I can carry on in that direction. So I'm fishing, all right, for her response. If the story goes into fashion or whatever someone's wearing, I have another story for that, another true story as well. Is this the Swedish girlfriend at the time came to Australia. This was a couple of Christmases ago. She flew to Australia to spend a month with me, and she said to me, Jeff, everyone keeps looking at me all the time. Is it my Swedish clothes? Well, do I look odd here in Australia? And I said to her, look, and I notice guys are looking at her all the time. I said, no, it's because you're very beautiful, and the guys keep looking at you. She said, but it's the women. All the women are looking at me as well. I said, that's the way it is in Australia. Women just check other women out. I said, it's because you're very attractive. All right. So, and then boom. And then I'll just transition straight off another story. Hey, how about this? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? We don't sort of dwell on it. But there's DHV spikes in that story. I'm pre-selected by beautiful women. Okay, and I'm challenging. All right. Oh, he dates beautiful women. Okay, must be challenging. All right. So that's in it as well. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to cultivate your own interesting stories with DHV spikes in them and have them at the ready and have them in that drop-down menu format, right, like I showed you earlier. Okay? Record everything that you get here. And keep that as your main blueprint. You can chop it down, make it smaller, but keep that main one and add to the main one all the time. Right? That way you've got a permanent record of all this good stuff that you've collected over time. Yeah. All right, give me the wind up. Now this is another good thing to use as well. 7 things a woman needs in a relationship. Now you'd bring this up in comfort. After you've built a traction with a girl, young girl, older girl, doesn't matter. But once you feel like you're gaining traction in it, you've built status, you built interest, all right, you can start to display your understanding of a woman. Young guys don't do this. Young guys just sort of don't get it. You say these things to a girl, say, look, I understand the 7 things a woman really needs. All right. Obviously, you say this at the right time, in comfort. You wouldn't sort of bring this in early in the conversation, in the interaction. You know, say, look, a woman really needs to be appreciated and valued for the woman she is. She needs to feel special, unlike any other woman. She needs to feel that a man is supporting of her, that there's good sex, so fulfilling all the fantasies. You want to sort of dwell on the sex thing too much, like most guys do. All right. But she needs to feel emotional intimacy with a man, not just sex. That's really powerful when you say that. She needs to feel like a woman, sexy and feminine. Man, this comes from being in a true relationship with an exciting man. And she needs to be mentally led and stimulated by a partner. All right? If you memorize these things and you say this to a woman, it's like, boom, fuck. You know, this guy really understands women. Okay? Young guys don't say things like this. This guy is like, he gets me, right? He just struck a chord in my heart. Super powerful. Okay, and lastly, this is about you. Now, in the West, everyone seems to think, oh, life should be about love, health and money. But the Chinese got it right thousands of years ago. It's actually a square. They call it the square of happiness. Okay? To have true happiness in your life is about having love. These are the four sides of a square. Love, health, money, and self-expression. Very important. Don't lose your self-expression in some relationships. You need to, as we talk about creating boundaries, boundary function, right? You need to make any woman who comes into your life, hey, as long as it's positive self-expression, I'm not talking about being negative or abusive or anything, but as long as you can feel free to express positive things. This is my blog, www.bulletproofonpickup.com. I'm also on Facebook, Bulletproof on Pickup. It's Bulletproof on Pickup. Okay. All right, well, that wraps it up for today, folks. Hope you enjoyed. Oh look, sorry, we're out of time. I'll be up the back if you want to. Last slide? Okay. Oh, well, I'll leave it up there as I wind up. I'll be up the back here, and if you've got any questions, by all means come and see me, because I've just ran about 5 minutes over time. Okay? Thank you.